Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this morning. And as Darren had pointed out, we're going to be going through the driver app this morning of Total ELD. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay. Now I'm going to log in and we'll go through the app. There's a lot to cover in this video, so I'll take periodic stops so anyone who has questions can ask them. Yeah, there's a lot to cover here. So in a driver, I'll just jump right in and start. First, I'm going to explain some of the things that you'll see on your screen, and then we'll dive into a day in the life of a driver, and that'll kind of make everything all come together, and everything will make sense. So when a driver first logs in, this is what they're going to see. And basically, this is where the driver will either enter vehicle information or select it from a list. This particular function, if this is on the screen, this is where a driver will simply click and select. And you see here I've selected that and I'm not using the trailer. The other way, that's called our asset tracking mechanism that we have included in the application. We also have a scenario where the driver is able to enter the vehicle information, such as the VIN, the plate number, the registration state. That's good if the driver will only ever drive one vehicle and that will never change. That's the way to go. If a driver will drive many vehicles, if there are many vehicles in a fleet, using the asset tracking mechanism is much more efficient. And here, that's what we'll be using. So once you're in this screen and you've either selected the proper vehicle or entered the vehicle information, and by the way, once you select or enter a vehicle in the system, it will stay there forever until you change, until you drive another vehicle. So you don't have to worry about putting things in or entering things twice. It'll always stay in there in the settings. So once that's correct, you'll enter an odometer reading and confirm it. And this is just for accuracy. If I were to enter the wrong number, it would yell at me. This is for accuracy in the entering of odometers. And the reason this is really prevalent in this system is because there's something called Odometer Jump in ELD world. And what that means is every now and then there'll be a hiccup in the way the ECM delivers information. The computer in the vehicle will deliver the information, sometimes incorrectly. And it could be caused for a lot of variables, but that's something that's well known in the industry. And basically, by verifying the mile or the odometer readings at strategic times as the driver goes through their day, we eliminate that odometer jump issue. So it makes things very efficient in our system. I'll save this, and they'll be brought to another screen. And before I get into this, I want to explain that I'm using an emulator, and basically what it is a test system. We use this for our demonstrations and for our trainings. And there's a couple of things that I can't show you because it's a test environment. I'm not sitting in a vehicle. I'm not connected to an ECM. So things like what you're going to see next are things that I can't show. Basically, the driver will get in his vehicle. And by the way, when the driver logs in using the app, they need to be in their vehicle with the vehicle started. And that's the way they connect to the ECM via the device that will be connected in the vehicle itself. So it'll connect the mobile device to the actual device that's connected to the ECM by using the scan device mechanism. So simply the driver will click this, and Bluetooth is disabled here, of course, so I can't show you that. But their device would come up and be listed at the top of the screen. They would simply click that. Now what will happen at that point is the driver will be brought, they won't see this, but the driver will be brought into diagnostic mode, which this is where everything happens. This is where the device connects. This is where the mobile device connects to everything. So this is where everything pairs up. Everything should appear green as a driver goes through this. If not, there are some issues that need to be corrected. But when a driver goes through this, everything should be green, and then they can continue. And that will put them right in the application itself. The first thing that they will see is if they have any records to certify, and I'll get back to this later, they can do it at this time or at a later time. We'll touch on this a bit later. I want to explain some of the things on the screen that you're seeing now. This is the main screen of the application, or what we call the dashboard. Now, basically what it is there's a lot of information here that's relevant for the driver as they go through their day. So over here, of course, are the duty status buttons. Now, there's a lot of automation built into the application. So there's a couple things that the driver has to do once they get underway with their day, and then the automation kicks in, and when they drive, the system will automatically place them into drive duty status. When they stop again, the system will automatically place them into on duty not driving. These are all of the duty status buttons. There's on duty not driving, driving. Of course, off duty is the big button in the middle. Sleeper berth is SB. PS is passenger seat, and that's only relevant if any of the drivers are in a team situation. So this would be enabled. This is now disabled. It's gray. This would be enabled if there were more than one drivers logged into this particular vehicle. And then, of course, there's the two new duty statuses at the bottom, yard moves and personal conveyance. And we'll go over all of these in a bit. There's also 3 dials that you'll see on the screen here. And these are the hours that the driver has to follow as they go. They have to monitor as they go through their day. They have to keep track of how much time they've driven, how much time they've spent on duty, and, of course, their weekly cycle. Now, these duty statuses these wheels or dials will turn green as the driver goes through their day, marking off how much time has been spent of their allotted time here. So we're just starting our day. It should say 0 of 11 hours of drive time. And like I said, it'll turn green as the driver goes through their day. When it gets below 1 hour, they'll turn a bright yellow, signifying, and the driver will know that they've only got 1 hour left to do whatever they need to do. When it gets below 0, it will turn a bright red, like you see some of the icons here. So the driver knows at a glance how they're doing as far as their hours that they must monitor as they go through their day. So it's really easy for a driver just to take a look and make sure they're doing okay. I train drivers that unless they see, if they see anything other than green, then they've got to pay attention. Now also you'll see a driver name up here. This is a button also. So if there are more than one driver, the second driver can simply click that button and they can log in as well. That's also a way, if there's more than one driver logged in, to be able to switch responsibilities back and forth. So let me do this. I'm going to log in another driver so you can see what I mean. Oh no. Almost forgot what it was. And because the vehicle's connected, everything's all has gone through diagnostics already. This driver, when they log in, the second driver in the team will simply be authenticated and go right into the application itself. So now, simply by clicking this button, drivers can switch, and it saves each of the drivers' place in the system and what they've been doing. So a really easy way for team drivers not only to share driving responsibilities and assume driving responsibilities, but also a way to share a single mobile device, which is cost savings to a motor carrier. We have these icons over here. This is a tablet and this is a vehicle. This is something that, because I wasn't able to connect to an ECM, they are red. When a driver logs in, these would be green. These would both be synced up, and both of these devices are green. If they are red or turn red at any point during the day, I'll go through how the tools that a driver has to reconnect to the system. These icons over here, the D and the M, these also have to do with the diagnostic information in the system. If anything has failed, as you saw all of those failures when we were going through diagnostics, that would cause the D and the M to turn red. So the system has to be clear of any errors for 24 hours for these to turn gray. They'll turn a gray like this when there are no errors. These aren't anything to be worried about or concerned about, but these are. If these are red, then something is not connected, and steps have to be taken, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. This clipboard here that's on the screen is where drivers will go to do their DVIRs, or vehicle inspections. At the bottom here, this is a counter. This shows the total time that the driver has been in the selected duty status. And this is really important. This shows right now I'm in off-duty, and it's showing me as being in on-duty for 890 hours and 57 minutes. So this is important for when drivers go off-duty on their 30-minute break in the first 8 hours of driving, when they are monitoring their 10 hours off-duty before they can go back on the road, or when they're doing a 34-hour restart. Whatever the case is, they're able to monitor how long they are in any duty status. So when they click any of these duty statuses, this will reset. And obviously when they go off-duty, it will also reset, but then they can keep an eye on that, and they'll know exactly when they've taken enough time off for their break or their 10 hours off duty, whatever the case is, they'll know by looking at that number. This box right here is also where the driver will have messages pop up. And the messages that they'll see are messages pertaining to the next possible violation that this driver can get into based on what's going on in his day, or her day. And you'll see that populate in a moment when I go on duty and start going through a driver's day. The green button down here in the middle of the screen at the bottom is where a driver would click if their logs were requested by an officer. They simply use this button to go into a secure mode. And what that means is it hides, the secure mode hides everything but the logs from the officer. The officer can't get around that. All they can see is what they're allowed to see. They can't see any of the personal information of the driver. They can't see any of this information here. All they can see is the log. So very good function for the drivers to use. And like I said, it hides all of the personal detail from the drivers. Normal conditions. This is actually a really cool feature. Basically what the regulations state is that if a driver, because of inclement weather or because of an accident or any other issue that would cause the driver not to be able to complete their drive time in the normally stated, in this case, 11 hours. So if they are stuck in traffic or they're in bad weather and they're trying to get somewhere but they're not able to, they've got to wait until the roads get get clear. Within 1/2 hour of the driver running out of drive time, this will actually turn into a button, this normal conditions icon over here. This will actually turn into a button that the driver is able to click at that time within a half an hour of the drive going over, and it will extend the driver's day up to 2 hours, providing the driver with enough time to make it to where they need to go or to find a safe place to pull over, whatever the case may be. It provides the driver extra time that they need to complete their duties. Location service. This is also a feature that helps the driver. It's kind of outdated because this was created for during the AOBRD days, pre-ELD days, when the driver was able to use information off of the tablet, off of their mobile device, to place themselves into drive or on duty automatically. Basically, if there's a line through it, this is the desired mode of operation. This means that it's reading the information off of the ECM. That's what's causing the driver to be placed into drive duty status when they move, or be placed into on duty not driving when their vehicle stops. If for some reason that is not working, their ECM something is wrong with their ECM, the computer's not working right, whatever the case is, the driver has the option to click this. This is a button. And if they click it, it will take that line away. And basically it says the ELD will switch you automatically to driving using your current location. What that means is, from that point forward, they will use the location sensing in the mobile device itself to place the driver into drive and to on duty not driving. So once again, if there is anything wrong with the ECM, the driver can remove that line through it, and that will mean that the ECM is actually, the mobile device or the tablet is providing that movement to the ELD that it needs to automatically change the duty status. Once again, this is the preferred method of operation right here. And the last thing on the screen is this up here, these three dots. This is the drop-down menu. This provides a lot more features and functionalities, and we'll get to a lot of this stuff in a moment. But now, like I said, I'm going to walk through a day in the life of a driver and show you exactly how this all comes together. Before I do that, is there any questions on anything that I've gone over or have shown you thus far? Okay. So when a driver begins their day and they go through all the diagnostics, they're placed on the dashboard, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to place themselves into on duty not driving. When they do this, a warning will pop up. Are you sure? Click OK. And a remarks screen will be shown. These remarks, in this case, I'm going to check pre-TI because I'm going to be doing my pre-trip inspection. There's also post-trip inspection that's done at the end of the day, loading, unloading, whatever the case is. They can also click other and type in a reason if they would like. The point being that anything that's selected or added on this screen will be printed directly on the log itself. So this is really important. There is also this border crossing option. If this is checked, the driver will use this if they cross country borders into either Canada or the United States, Canada or Mexico, or coming back to the United States. Either way, they can drop this down and select the proper rule set that they'll follow for where they are driving. When they're finished making a selection, click OK, and it will now, this is one of those times where the odometer needs to be verified. Any time that a driver is making a manual duty status change, it will ask for the odometer to be verified. If it's not correct, they can simply erase it and enter the correct odometer, but typically it keeps pretty good time. So click OK here. Tells the driver, remember to do your vehicle inspection, and click OK. Now, once the driver's on duty, now is when the messages start. So it tells the driver there is a possible violation in 8 hours, 0 minutes. It's the 30-minute break. That's where the messages come up. All of the messages that are written in this box have to do with either the 30-minute break or going over the 14-hour window or whatever the work shift window is. But those types of messages will be displayed here. And as you can see, since I've manually changed my duty status, it also resets that counter. So that will now start counting up. And these will all start counting down and turning green. You'll see that in a moment. To do the vehicle inspection, as I mentioned before, they'll click this clipboard. Now, this is a list of all of the inspections that I've done in the last couple of days. This window will look the same when the driver accumulates a couple of finished DVIRs. But to start one, the driver will click the plus sign. Click which United States will be by default clicked. If they're in Canada, they can click one of the other schedules. Click OK, and they'll be brought into a vehicle information screen. Now there'll be a bunch of, from here the driver will walk around their vehicle with their tablet in their hand. They'll check off only things that are broken or need to be addressed by a mechanic. If nothing is broken, they can simply click the next button. And they'll be brought to the trailer information screen. If they're using a trailer, they can once again walk around checking off only things that need attention. And if nothing does, they can click next. And they'll be brought into this screen. Once again, they need to verify their odometer at the top of the remarks screen. If they are driving a trailer, if they have a trailer and they have a seal on the lock, they can enter the seal number. And if there's any remarks necessary, they can enter it on the remarks screen. They select the condition of the vehicle. In this case, it's satisfactory. Excuse me. And they can verify or make changes to the city and state that are being reported if necessary. Now, one of the cool things about this DVIR in our system is that the driver is able to take up to 9 pictures, attach up to 9 pictures to any DVIR. Now, this is another one of those features that I can't show you, but this is where that would take place. The driver can simply click that and click to take pictures from their mobile device. The next thing that the driver has to do after they've done that is they can click the e-sign. They've got to sign their DVIR. And this is the equivalent of a manual signature on a paper log. They simply click the pencil, and they could sign with their finger or stylus, whatever the case is. And then they'll click the plus sign to finish the process. Now, there are a couple of options here. Save and continue. If they checked any of the boxes, meaning that there's something that a mechanic needs to look at, they would click save and continue. And what this does is this actually adds another signature line for the mechanic to be able to sign off on the repair when it's been made. There's also a spot in the mechanic's a signature page that will allow the vehicle to be driven as is. So if that's the case, the mechanic would simply select that option as well and sign it. In this case, I'm just going to save and finish. And you can see the signature that I've made, and I'll click the back button. The last thing that the driver must do is to upload the DVIR. They'll click that upload button, and they will be shown a copy of a DVIR, their completed DVIR, along with their signature. If that document is correct, then they'll just simply click OK, and the document will be uploaded to the back-end servers. If it's not OK, there's also an edit button that the driver will see, and it's green like all the other buttons that you've seen so far. The driver will be able to come in and make changes and then go through the process again. When they're finished, they simply use their back button, and they'll go back to the main dashboard of the application. So that's all there is to doing a DVIR, and it's the same process they'll use to do a post-trip DVIR at the end of their day. Any questions about the DVIR itself? Okay. When the driver has completed their DVIR, now they're ready to drive. So the driver can simply start driving, and the system will automatically disposition them, automatically change their duty status to the drive duty status once the vehicle starts moving. Once they stop again, they'll be placed back into on duty, not driving. So they could do that all day long, and the system will automatically change their duty status all day. I'm going to place it into drive manually just to show you there's a bit of a different screen that comes up, and it's this fueling option that is now being shown. So we'll go through purchasing fuel in a moment. I just wanted to show you where it is. I'm going to just click OK here, verify the odometer, and now I am placed into the drive duty status. During the time that the driver is in the duty status drive, anything that they click will not be allowed. So everything kind of locks up as it's supposed to during the drive duty status. If during their day they've got to take their break, like this break here, possible violation in 7 hours, it's a 30-minute break. If they need to take an off-duty break at any time during their day, they have to make sure that their vehicle is stopped, of course, and then they can place themselves into the off-duty status. And this is always going to be a manual duty status change. The system doesn't know that the driver is taking an off-duty break. So you'll simply click the off-duty status button, click OK, verify the miles again. It's a manual duty status. And once again, the timer will reset. So now they know that they've got to wait 30 minutes before they can drive again to fulfill that part of their responsibilities. It also shows, since they are doing a 30-minute break, it also shows the next possible violation, which is their 14-hour on duty, it's the same type of a thing. This will count up, this will count down, and they'll know when they need to, when they're getting close to the 14-hour limit that they have set. If their logs are requested by an officer during their day, as I mentioned before, they click this green button here. And this will put it into secure mode. So this locks the device, as I said before, and the only thing available to the officer are these two buttons. So if they want to work with the logs, they simply click this button, and it'll give them the ability to view the log itself. It'll also give them the ability to email the logs to themselves. And they also have the option, I'm going to cancel this, they also have the option to export the ELD data file. And that's something else that the driver must be able to provide to the requesting officer. It's the feed that comes off of the ECM that is used to change the duty statuses on the log itself. So what they're looking for is the ECM values are equal to the duty status change values on the log itself. And that's how they kind of proof that the system is integrally connected. And this button will reveal 4 options that they have available. They could view it, transfer it by USB port, email it. So these two are the same, basically. And when they're finished doing this, when they're finished viewing the information or emailing the information that they need, they'll hand the device back to the driver. And all the driver needs to do is click their back button on their mobile device, enter their password, click OK, and it will unlock the device and restore it to normal operating mode. Very good feature. Some other things that the driver has available to them all the features are in the drop-down menu, which is here, the 3 dots at the top. Now, as I talked about before, well, let's start at the top. Logbook is the first option. I don't want to backtrack here, but Logbook is the first option. Logbook will show the driver, will let the driver view their own logs. They could use the scroll button to go back and forth. They can also click the date, and they could select the date that they'd like to view. It also exposes another feature under this logs link. And what this does basically is it allows the driver to make changes to their own logs. Now this is a pretty complex yet very powerful feature. The driver must be able to make changes to their own logs. There's a little caveat to that, however, that the driver is not able to change any values that come off of the ECM. So any drive times that have come off of the ECM, the VIN number, the odometer, all of that information that has come across from the computer is set in stone as far as the ELD is concerned, as far as their logs are concerned. So you notice that there are some buttons here, some icons, trash, you can delete it, you can edit it, you can add a remark. You'll see that on all of the duty statuses except for, as I said before, a drive record that comes off of the ECM. Will not have any of this because they won't be able to change that, that drive duty status at all. But when a duty status change is made, and I'm going to make one in a minute, it not only affects the current log as far as the hours are concerned, but it also changes every log forward. So if they were doing a log in the past, then they're able to edit up to 8 days of logs. If they do anything like that to a previous log or to a date in the past, it will recalculate that log as well as all logs in front of it. So very powerful feature, and it takes place immediately. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this off duty. Let me see, that's 1250. Yeah, let me take this. I'm going to delete this one. And you'll notice if I go back into the logbook that now you could, I hope you could see it, it's a little line here. Basically, it's kept the driver in drive duty status. So I've deleted that off duty status. It's very quick, very powerful, and also it takes a while to get used to how to do this. We have videos and manuals on every topic that I'm going over today. This is one of them. and I'm sure you'll be provided all of that by Tomata. But these, and one other thing about the logs, the changes in the logs, administrative users are also able to make suggested changes. Drivers have the responsibility, the total responsibility over their logs of making changes, but the same functionality is available on the administrative side of the website portal. And if that happens, where an internal or administrative user makes a suggested change to a driver's log, the driver will be notified that they need to review that. Now they have to make they have to select whether they accept that change or they reject it. If they accept it, it becomes part of their log set. If they reject it, it goes away like internal users or administrators have not made any suggested changes. So as I said before, it's totally up to the driver. They are totally responsible for their logbook. And when they're finished here, they could simply use their back button and go back to the main screen or the dashboard of the application. Okay, continuing on. Let me place myself in off-duty once again. Off-duty, okay. All right. If a driver encounters these red buttons, these red icons as they go through their day, if the ECM or the ELD becomes disconnected from the ECM, one or both of these will turn red. If that happens, the driver has the ability to help himself, basically, or herself, go into the menu, and they can select either diagnostic or scan devices. If one of these are red, they can simply use the diagnostics, and that will run through where it shows pass or fail, all of that stuff again, and that would reconnect the device to the ECM, and everything should turn green. If both of those icons are red, then they would use the scan devices, and basically what that would do is find the device that's connected to the ECM all over again, and it would reconnect right from the beginning. So that's a much more complete feature for the driver to use if both of those icons are red. Vehicle profile is just that. It's the vehicle that the driver is driving. It's also the tractor. In this particular case, if the driver is driving another vehicle, they would simply select it. In the other scenario where the driver enters their own, they could simply overwrite the information in here. Verify the odometer when they're finished. And click Save. And continue. I don't want to do that. That would put them back in the diagnostic mode. I don't want to do that. I'm going to use my back button. Oh, no, maybe not. They just came out with a new version of our software today, and there's some really subtle differences. This is one of them. So apparently from now on, save that. You've got to go through Connect, go through the diagnostics, and when the diagnostics are finished, simply continue, and you're brought back into the application itself. Our application is updated quite frequently, making things better, putting any changes from the FMCSA that may be required, fixing things that may not be quite right, listening to our clients on, maybe some suggested changes, whatever the case may be. We're constantly updating the entire Total ELD, so to keep it as good as possible, to make it better all the time. Continuing violations, if there were any violations, they would be listed here for the driver. This driver is great. He doesn't have any violations. That's a good thing. There's also a way for administrators to view this as well. These violations, just to make it clear, these violations are only for internal purpose, only for internal use. They don't get placed anywhere. They don't get sent anywhere. No one is made aware of them. It is only for internal use and for training purposes, really, to go over what the resolution was and to try not to get in the situation again. But it's only for internal use. Driver profile is just that. It lists the information about the driver. They're able to alter some information, the rule set, the distance, distance and volume measures, things like that. But everything else is pretty much set in stone. Can only be changed by the administrative users if anything were to change here. About the ELD is just that. Because I'm not able to, it shows ELD, this number that's associated with the ELD. If I were connected to the ECM, this firmware and MAC address would also be available. They aren't because I am not, and it also shows the version of the application. If, for any reason, any drivers have to go through technical support, this is something that we would ask for upon talking. You know, this is one of the first things that we need to know to make sure that everything is up to date. It may be a feature that has been fixed in a later release. That's why this is all important. Annotations are what is printed on the log itself. So in the beginning, when I was first logging in and first putting myself into on duty, I selected pre-TI or pre-trip inspection. And I also made another test annotation later on. This is where you can get a list of those annotations. Certification just shows the certification of this as per the FMCSA website. So we are certified. This is a certified solution. Certify Records. That was the message that showed up, that popped up when we first logged into the application. Drivers must certify their logs every day, just as they would sign their paper logs in paper log days. And this is the equivalent of that. The driver should come in here, and if there are any available logs that need to be certified, they can simply click this button, and it will highlight, it'll check everything, and then they click the Certify button. I'm not going to do that at this time. I want to show another message that pops up. The reason I did that is because I want to show a message whenever the driver logs in or logs out of the application. If there are any records to certify, a message will pop up stating that. Further, if the driver doesn't certify their logs for 7 days, the system will then force them to do that. The driver can get fined if they have too many uncertified logs. So although we don't want to force that every day, just have to, there's a way in this to make the drivers not accumulate too many uncertified logs. And that's real important. Co-driver login, it's the same as clicking this button up here. It simply switches back and forth from one driver to the next in a team situation. Notifications, if there are none here, but if administrators send a message to drivers, this is where they would see that. So if there are any messages or any notifications, the driver would be made aware with a pop-up message, and then they would come here to the notifications menu item to get those notifications. And the last menu item is the Shipments menu item. Internal users can actually, administrative users can actually schedule pickups and drop-offs. Once they do that, they can also assign it to a driver. When that happens, the driver can use the Shipments menu item to go into that menu item and add their. Well, what would happen is the administrative users put estimated pickup times for both delivery and pickup. They put the estimated times. The driver would then update them with the real times that they delivered and picked up. They can also enter information that will be printed directly on the logs, the shipper, the commodity, the shipper number, any comments that are necessary, and they could save that. So that all is important because that gets printed directly on the log itself. So even if there were no scheduled pickups and deliveries assigned to the driver can go in and put this information here, and as they do, it's printed directly on the log. And that's important because FMCSA or an officer requesting to look at the logs, we'll be looking at that. And that's all the menu items available from the drop-down. This is what I was talking about before, that the dials will actually turn green as the driver goes through their day, and they'll show elapsed time as well as time left in this particular duty status. So all that's recorded here. And that's about it for the hours of service for the ELD app.